This is a very important, so everybody listen up. Tuesday, the 16th of September, something important is happening at Homeless Empowerment Program. Who knows where that is? If you know where it is, put your hand up. Well, tell your neighbor if they don't know where that is. And it's going to be a dedication of a little free library for that site. And this is through the courtesy of the Rotary Club of Dunedin's Foundation. We funded this project along with a lot of books that are going to be distributed in other little free libraries. But this is like a kickoff to draw attention in this early in the school year to the fact that our kids need books, especially at this time. Books chosen for them, put in places where they should be removed by children who come and take them away, which is a picture I want to see. I hope there'll be kids there too. And this is in cooperation with the North Dallas Women's Club. But before that, you have to say the GFWC, North Dallas Women's Club. And nobody knows what GFWC means, do they?
General Federation of Women's Clubs.
Greater Federation of Women's Clubs. See, I knew it. Greater Federation of Women's Clubs. And that's the largest women's service club in the world. And a lot, they don't toot their own horn a lot. They should do it more often because this is a very big deal. And they're giving us good publicity on their website and on the flyers. Our name and our Rotary emblem is right on there. So show up at 10 o'clock. It'll be very short. Give your time to this important event and draw attention to the fact that our foundation we gave lots of grants this year, but this was just one of them. And we will be having programs about this organization and others that we have awarded money to this year. So we want people to know how the foundation is spending its money. We'll have a meeting next week, and anybody can come to the meeting. It'll be after this meeting, and it'll be the Rotary Club Foundation board will be meeting. So if you're curious about that board, say after the meal next week and go to our meeting.
Excellent, thank you. There's little libraries are popping up all over town, and they have been for years. It's over 10 years. As I understand it, Dunedin was the second community in the country to put up a little free library. And they're all over the place now in Dunedin. It's really cool. And so, do we have any other happy bucks? No. Okay. Where are we?
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was some happy news. I was going to call attention to this is, of course, all Bev Fisher stuff, but we are a Peace Builder Club. This is our Peace Builder Club certificate. And we are one of the founding members of the Peace Builder Club for Florida. So in that, congratulations to Bev for having that on. Our good friend Julie Scales is going to come up and introduce our speaker. Oh, there you are. I was like, I just saw you a minute ago.
Thanks, Dave. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce to you today Steve Barkwar. He'll be up here in a minute. I met Steve at Tai Chi. We were both practitioners of that art. And but Steve has a very interesting background. And one of the things in programs is I like to, occasionally feature our members or people that don't have to be a member really, but who have interesting stories about their careers. Our club is really made up of people who are in various careers. And I usually find it really interesting to see how people got to where they were in their careers. And Steve has a very interesting story. He was the executive chef at Bon Appétit. He was with Bon Appétit for 30 years. And he's came from Largo. And I just thought, well, he has an interesting story about how a kid from Largo can end up getting his training in Europe and ending up in a career at Bon Appétit for all the years. Steve?
Hey, thanks for having me. I grew up, I wasn't born here, but moved here in 62. So I grew up in the Largo area, went to Largo High School. And junior year of high school, everybody says, well, what are you going to do? Well, people are going to go to college for management. And I'm like, well, what does that do? Well, you could be a manager for JM Fields or Pennies or something like that. And I'm like, well, I don't think so. And somewhere along the line, I got in my head, I was going to be a chef. There is nobody in the hospitality industry in my family, back however many generations you want. It just came into my head. I knew no matter what happens in the world, I will always have a job. I will always have a job. So I went to the guidance counselor and they're like, huh? Because this is 74. And back then, there really wasn't much of anything in the United States. There was one major school, the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, but I didn't have any money, so that was out. They said, well, go to St. Pete Junior College. And I'm like, but I want to be a chef. They teach hotel management. So then they said, well, then you go to P-Tech. So I'm like, all right, so I go to P-Tech. And they were teaching at that time how to cook cafeteria food. They were basically sponsored by Morrison's Cafeteria, places like that. Ma's Brothers had a cafeteria. That's kind of what they were training you for. So I'm like, well, I got to learn how to cut a carrot sometime. So I started working, going to school there and learning what they had to offer. And one of the guys that I was in school with, he was a waiter at Innisbrook Golf Resort. And so he said, why don't I go up there? So I went up there and I applied for a job as a cook's helper. I had never cooked in a restaurant before, but the management there, they liked my attitude. They liked, what I told them in the interview, so they gave me a job. And I started out just doing the most basic things in the kitchen. And I just kept my nose to the grindstone. I listened to what everybody had to say. I didn't say nothing. I just watched what they did, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. And I just learned and learned. I dropped out of P-Tech because it was, I think, a 2.5-year school. But at the end of a year, I had done the entire program. And they said, well, no, you can't graduate early. You have to put in the hours. And I'm like, well, what am I going to be doing for 1.5 years? And they're like, well, what you're doing now? So I'm like, well, I just decided I would concentrate more on the work at Innisbrook because I was learning more there in a day than I would at school in a week or 2 weeks. So at any rate, I was working there, and it was time for summer layoffs at the golf resort. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do now? And so I talked with the executive chef, and he liked me. And he said, don't worry, I'm not going to lay you off. And he's from Germany. And I asked him, I said, are there ways that I could possibly go to Europe to train? Because back then, every cruise line, every hotel, every fine restaurant, you had a German in the kitchen and a Frenchman up front. I mean, that's just how it was. This is even before Julia Child type thing. So he thought about it. He says, let me think about it. And so he talked with the brother of the man he took an apprenticeship with in Germany. It's a little town called Garmisch-Partenkirchen in southern Bavaria. And they agreed to take me on there as not an official apprentice, because that involves schooling, but kind of an indentured servitude. So I would go there and I would just work, and you don't ask for money, you just work and learn. So I went there, and I told them, I said, I'll do anything you want, just make sure you teach me. And so I just, very, very much a minority, not too much fun. I feel sorry for minorities because it sucks being one. I was a stupid little American boy, but I worked hard and I was there for 4 years. After about 2 years, I was at a level where as high as anybody that had finished their apprenticeship. I was very respected in the industry, in the town. The chef got injured at one point. I took over the kitchen. A lot of people didn't really like it. What's this American running the kitchen? But I could cook better than them. So, but at any rate, I just learned so much. We had several operations. We had a real traditional Bavarian restaurant across from the city hall. And we had a convention center that was built for the World Ski Cup Finals. So it was this brand new big convention center. Garmisch is, they hosted the Winter Olympics in 32, I believe. And they had the World Ski Cup Finals when I was there. So it's serious ski country. And I got to work in the restaurant that was there at the convention center and then also do the banquet work for the conventions. So we would just all kinds of different things. And we didn't have a big staff, but every time we would have a convention, they would bring in chefs from all over Europe and we would have teams and you would have a master chef, 2 regular chefs, 2 apprentices, and 2 housewives. And those would be the teams. And so I got to work with Italian chefs, Romanian chefs, even British chefs came over, French, Norway, Sweden. So I got to work with chefs from all over Europe and I didn't have to go anywhere. I would just go there and originally they're like, oh, don't give me the American. And after a while, they're like, I want the American on my post. So I learned a lot and I would tell every single one of them, I said, I'll do anything you want, just make sure you teach me some stuff. So I did that and then it was 4 years and it's like, I had an opportunity to go to Paris, but I'm like, I'm tired of Europe. I want to go home. I'm an American. This is where I belong. So I got a Eurail pass and I spent 6 months traveling before I came back home and lived on about $1 a day, really. I was cheap. If I didn't have money, I would sleep on a train to go to a town and then I'd come right back the next night. Nothing's cheaper than that. But then I came back home and when I got back here, stayed with my mother there in Largo. And I went by to see the gentleman that helped me get to Germany. His name is Carl Riedel. And he was executive chef at Innisbrook. And the other fellow, Peter Kreutzinger, he was the vice president of some kind of service at Innisbrook. I forget. But the 2 of them had opened Bon Appétit restaurant while I was gone. And I went by to say hi and thank them. And, I had a good time and all this. And they said, well, you want a job? You can come work for us. And I'm like, no, you did enough to help. Well, he's no dummy. You got a young American boy that just spent 4 years in Europe, is like really classically trained. You don't let him go. So they hired me. And I came in and I started working. I worked there for probably about 1.5 years or so. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of bored and I want to do something else. Well, they had both worked in New Orleans. So they set up a program where we traded cooks. I went to New Orleans and they sent a cook over here. And that way you weren't short of any help and we both could get different experience. New Orleans got the better end of the deal as I understand it, but I worked at a restaurant called La Provence and very, very fine restaurant. It's a small provincial restaurant across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans. It has different ownership now, but at the time, it was the finest restaurant in New Orleans, probably all Louisiana. If Michelin had been around back then, it would have been a Michelin one-star restaurant. Small, 60 seats. The owner was a fanatic. I mean, just so into quality. And so I went there and I just did what I know how to do, shut up and work and learn and pay attention. One downside, when I got there, the first hour, sat down with the chef and talked. And we were talking about things. He says, "You have a gun?" I said, "No." He says, "You better get one." And I'm like, okay, this is not good. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna come here and learn what I can learn and then skedaddle. And that's pretty much what I did. There was a time where he closed the restaurant to do some remodeling. So I went and I worked at the Royal Orleans Hotel down on Royale Street, downtown New Orleans. Just fabulous hotel. Everything is marble, gold, sterling silver. I mean, you've got these huge stairwells coming up when you come in. It's like something Hollywood would want to be able to make. And the food there was just incredible. And so I got to work in all the different departments, and they put me up to stay there while I was there. They would give me a room if there was a room. If not, they would put a cot in the banquet room. It's pretty weird being in a banquet room that seats 300 people, chandeliers as big as this room, and you're by yourself on a little cot. But you can go out, there's a balcony, and there's Royale Street. Bourbon Street's right next door. So, you know, you can sit out there and yell at the people, whatever. But I had just wonderful people have given me a chance to learn. And so I was there for a while, and it was very dangerous in New Orleans at that time. It's the only time in the history of AAA that they told people not to go to a town for vacation. So, I mean, it would be like, you know, Chicago, maybe in the wrong part of town, Leroy Brown. But so I came back home, and I went to tell the boys about, you know, my trip and stuff, and they said, "Well, we want you back." So I'm like, all right. So I came back at a better position, and then I worked, and I took over the kitchen and you know, a lot of the restaurant operations, and I did that for, I don't know, probably 5-6 years. And they said, "Well, I want to try something different. I'd really like to go out west." So I finished up there and I went out to California, and I didn't have a clue what I was looking for when I went out there. I mean, I really didn't do my homework, and I got out there and I'm talking to people. I didn't understand how expensive things are out there. I mean, it's like New York City. I mean, you know, you have a room the size of a closet is your home. And I'm like, I grew up in Largo, you know, I got the American dream of, you know, a house, a 2-car garage, you know, wife, 2 kids, you know, 2.5 dogs, that kind of stuff. And that's, and so I looked out there and that didn't work. So I came back, and at that time, there was a company that opened a nursing facility here called Manor Care. And it was a very upscale nursing facility, and they were opening, and it was supposed to be kind of a flagship type place. And they wanted me to do menu writing and work with the nutrition people and that kind of stuff. So I did that. They offered to send me to college. to get the education and the degrees needed, but I'm like, I'm a European trained chef, I could do this stuff, but I really don't want to, I wasn't happy, coming in, and I certainly didn't want to cook the food. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, so back to Bon Appetit I go. So I'm at Bon Appetit for a few more years, and I'm like, well, I always liked food service sales. So I'm like, maybe I could try that. So I found a company that had a really good training program. It's called Henry Lee. They're not around anymore. They're owned by Gordon's Food Service. But anyway, I went and I took their training course, and I became a salesman. I was very good at it. I mean, my first quarter I was there, I was salesman of the year, and that's a lot for something like this. But I wasn't happy at all. I could do it, but I'm like, I get up in the morning, I don't want to do this. So back to Bon Appetit I go. They miss me, and I'm like, well, I guess I like it here. And I got along with the owners. I mean, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and the owners are no different, and neither am I, but we got along very well, and I did what they wanted, and they would work with me with what I wanted to do, and so I had a good career. I was the chef there for 37 years, 45 years in the business, and then I was just like, I'm getting older, and some people had said, well, maybe you want to go work at a country club or something like that. And I'm like, not really, I'm kind of like done. And then kind of what decided if I was going to retire, I guess the accountants had some time on their hands, and they were fooling around with the books and looking at stuff. And they figured out that while I was there, I have fed 65 million people. And I'm like, that's enough. Like, that's enough. I don't know if you think it's enough, but I don't have to wait for 70 million. That's enough. So I talked to my money guy, and he's like, well, you should work a couple more years and this and that. And said, well, can I retire now? He says, oh yeah, sure. I said, okay, make it so. And so I retired. I retired in the winter of 2018. I've been happy ever since. My schedule is a little busy. In the morning, I don't do much. And then after lunch, I finish what I started in the morning. And then in the evening, I kind of take it easy, because I don't want to get too excited because I'm getting older, So, and then I plan what I'm going to do tomorrow. And then, so I work it out, and then I ask my wife, what do you want for dinner tomorrow? I miss the cooking. I don't miss the business, but I've had a great career, and I got a wife and 2 kids, and they're doing great. My wife's a lovely lady, and she puts up with me, and for 45 years, every holiday was on a Tuesday. Christmas was on a Tuesday because that was my day off. Mother's Day's on a Tuesday. My mother's birthday was on a Tuesday. Anniversary's on a Tuesday. And the family, you just get used to it. And before I married my wife, I sat down with her father, and I explained to him my business, and they said, it's not going to change. It's not ever going to change. It has never changed since the Roman times. I said, I do what I do, and I have the time off when I have time off. And if I ever hear once you, your wife, your cousins ever say once that, oh, I wish Steve could be here, I will slaughter you. Because I don't want that pressure. I mean, I do what I do, and I explained it to my wife too. I said, this isn't gonna change. You gotta realize who and what you're marrying. And that's a real big thing that people need to do in this industry is make sure that your spouse, significant other, your families, because you can get a lot of pressure from their in-laws or something, you know. Well, everybody's coming to the boathouse this weekend, and you're not gonna be here, your wife's gonna be by herself. She knows how to swim without me. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what I've been doing for the last 50 years. Anybody have any questions?
What's your most challenging entree to produce?
Impossible to answer. Because, you know, there's so many cuisines and so many animals. I am not a vegetarian. I love God's animals that he made. They are so tasty. And you can make it as challenging or as simple as you want. Some of the most challenging things are incredibly good if you make it properly. And some of the simple things are incredibly good if you make them properly. So I really couldn't answer that. Yes, sir.
I'd like to get your gumbo recipe before you leave.
I could give it to you, but it's not going to come out like mine because you don't have these. I mean, recipes are recipes, you know, it's.
I already have to go over for dinner.
You got to clear it with the boss. I think it's pretty dumb. I mean, I've gone to places and you get a hamburger with their special sauce. Well, it's nothing but a bunch of chilies plopped on there that you can't taste anything. You can't even taste the chilies because they're so hot. You know, the heat thing, you know, if you want to be a bunch of bachelors at a party and say, oh, you could make a hot enough for me. You've never been to a Thai restaurant, but yeah, I think a lot of that is pretty dumb. Well, that's all I have.
That was a pleasure to hear from Steve, and I think Tom can attest, and me having worked in the restaurant industry for 21 years, that any industry where you commit to working every night, every weekend, and every holiday, you really need to think about that. So it is an incredible way of life. So, and prime rib is the toughest, I think, because anytime you commit to having something on your menu that takes 3 hours to cook, you could be in trouble. So, thank you. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody who helped with parking. Tom, Terry, Linda, Allison, and Stella came and was awesome and worked so hard. Dave Kelly, Dave Sheeler. We had a great time. Who else am I missing? Oh, Andy, of course. Andy was there at 5:30 in the morning, no less. So it was a little bit painful, and we're going to do it again on September 27th. We're parking. We made $834 ish. Yeah, for the Wendy Barkwar Scholarship Fund, and that we are now with the Wendy Barkwar Scholarship Fund over $20,000. It is self-perpetuating at this point, so we've done a great job with that.